This is Fam Electric Ghost, and we're live on there with June Edward for the first time. Welcome to the Fam Electric Ghost podcast. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Well, I'll let people know that we are a featured podcast on the Newsly Network. You might see scrolling below a coupon code of Ghost. If you check that out, you'll be able to check us out on Newsly, which is an audio-only podcast network. We'll be on there later tonight, and you can check that out for free for 30 days with that coupon code. Other than that, we also have juneedward.com. That will be fully clickable for anybody who looks at the description of a podcast on any of the platforms that we're on. Right now, we're live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. And I always ask any guest on the show a couple questions before I get into their story. What motivates you, and why do you do what you do?
Oh, I love what I do. What motivates me is being able to help people, not just on this side, but people on the other side as well. Believe it or not, the souls on the other side are in just as much of distress as we are here.
Yeah. I've actually talked to another person who talks to people on the other side. Over the years, I've had a lot of podcasts. I find it very interesting, and maybe we can start with the concept of like parapsychology. Like for people who don't know what it is, you can maybe start there and then maybe back into your story.
Sure. So parapsychology is just the field of study that is not something that is material, something you can't touch, see. And it's kind of fallen by the wayside because everybody thinks it's woo-woo, but the reality of it is we're right in the middle of a huge awakening in this world. And people are starting to understand that, everyone's born with psychic ability. It's that knowing, it's that gut feeling that you have. It's walking into the room and just knowing that someone's staring at you or feeling the energy. That's your psychic ability. And it's really your soul. And when you listen to your soul knows everything that's happening. So what I teach people how to get in touch with that soul so that they can have that knowing all the time when they make their decisions. It's an interesting field to study. It encompasses a lot of things. It encompasses psychometry. Psychometry is when you pick up an object and from the energy of the object, you start getting images of where it came from, who it belonged to, things like that. There's a lot of different abilities that go with that. And we're all energetic beings. Everything in the universe is energy. And it's really tapping into that energy and understanding how it works and how it flows to enhance your own abilities.
I think it seems like a lot of the ancient peoples, knew this, but then we lost it with modern society.
Well, I think we lost it for a lot of reasons, to be honest with you. I think it has more to do with control than anything else. When you go back thousands of years ago, we didn't have cell phones. We didn't have, television sets. We didn't have these forms of communication. What we had was our psychic ability. Mm-hmm. So, if dad and your son were out working in the fields and there was an emergency in the home, psychically it would be get home and he'd come a running. Exactly. Yeah, that type of thing.
Well, I think also and I'm in an artist community because I'm a musician, producer, and stuff like that. And I always feel when I'm with a lot of creative people that they can tap into like the muse. They can tap into the universe. They can tap into the vibe. Like
because it's the energy, and there's nothing like music. So yeah, I mean,
music. We kind of feel that vibe anyway. Like as a musician, like a lot of times we get into like a zone, and we're able to channel. Right? It's the stuff that's internal and the stuff that's external. The room, the feel of what's going on.
So it's interesting because, again, when you talk about energy, you talk about frequency, energy. There's all different words, but it all means the same thing, right? And vibration. So music, anything you're listening to on the radio is kept around the 428 megahertz range. And all the countries got together back in, I think, the 30s and decided that they wanted to keep everything on the radio in that range because it's a low vibration and it keeps you more depressed.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
So when you're playing your own music and you start getting into those high vibes and the higher megahertz, it's just amazing. It's almost an out of body experience. It's incredible.
Yeah, I'm a synthesis, so just to get technical, I mean, I have like analog synthesizers with oscillators, and they're like based on old technology, and I can actually control like the
That's great.
frequency. I can go and create like tones
Yeah.
before I even write a song that have those higher frequencies or have
E-
have whatever frequency I want.
Right. Even
So
meditating, I tell people get up into that 900 range at least to meditate. Don't, stay out of that low vibrational stuff because you're just not going to get the same experience.
that's interesting that the world tries to keep people in the box,
Well,
and I think
and again, it's all about control. So we have the pineal gland, right? The pineal gland is that walnut-sized gland that sits between the two lobes of your brain, kind of in the middle. And the Egyptians called it the third eye. How smart were they? Because when they've taken it apart, it's actually made up the same cells as your eyes.
it
Okay.
makes a lot of sense.
And it's a solid, empty walnut sized gland that's filled with a clear fluid that acts as a reflecting pool. So the images that you're getting energetically, psychics that can see things and transporting and getting information is reflecting on that pineal gland. That's where your psychic information is coming from. And, they don't want people having that ability and knowing things. So what do? They put all the chemicals and the garbage and all the food that you eat, and it's killing you, and it calcifies that. They put fluoride in the water. The fluoride calcifies it. There are ways to decalcify it, but, water is one of the biggest ones because of the fluoride in it. And fluoride is one of the first things that will calcify your pineal gland. And students that I've had that I've told to stop drinking the tap water and start drinking like spring water, something that has minerals but no fluoride in it, and get away from the fluoride toothpaste, within 60 to 90 days, their psychic abilities start to open up really, really big because they're clearing that and cleaning up the pineal gland.
So that's information that I think a lot of people don't have. I know there's a lot of people who are against fluoride for other reasons, but I never heard that reason.
Well,
That's the
it's a
first
poison.
time.
It's a poison, and it's a
Yeah,
byproduct of the steel industry. And the first they had to get rid of it. How do you get rid of all of this poison? Right? They figure,
yeah.
we'll dump it in the water supply. It'll just thin out so much nobody will notice it. And what do politicians do? Oh, gee, the government can buy it from us, right? The government can pay us for it. I can give you half. We'll take half. We'll dump it in the water. We'll tell them it's good for them. Nobody knows any better, right? There was an incident in Wyoming, probably about 20 years ago. I remember my dad showing me the article, and this woman had a bunch of horses on a horse ranch. And she realized that her horses in the summertime, if they drank the water, they were getting sick. And in the
Mm.
wintertime, they wouldn't drink the water. They'd eat the snow instead. They were
Oh,
fine. And then she took water samples in and had it tested and found out that the fluoride was off the charts. Imagine what it was doing to the people.
it's like you got to be real careful about what you intake because it's like or that's why my family we actually grow food.
Yeah,
Like, better.
I'm in Florida now, but when I was in Massachusetts, I used to grow all of my food and do all my own canning. I eat as little processed food as possible. I make all my own food. I'm very careful. I read the ingredients. You have to, because you are what you eat, literally.
Yeah,
People don't understand why everybody's getting so fat and they can't lose weight. It's because they put high fructose corn syrup in
and
all of the
everything.
food.
Yeah,
There's nothing wrong with corn syrup necessarily, but the high
yeah,
fructose expands the fat cell and it never leaves your body. And you cannot shrink the fat cell once you've started eating it.
yeah. With
This
all
is
the
what
sugar, like
happens.
too much sugar, like you really don't need
Yeah,
that
but
much
it's
sugar.
more than that. It's the high
Yeah,
fructose corn.
yeah,
It's specifically made as a chemical to not leave your body and expand your fat cells, which kills you.
yeah.
Yeah,
More diabetes, more
exactly.
obesity, all the
Keep
bad
the
things.
pharmaceutical companies in business. Name of
Well,
the game.
you create an illness, so you create a pill to solve the next illness, and then that
Exactly. Well, they
side
got to
effect
make
of
you
that
sick.
pill,
They
and then
got to make
you
you sick to give
you
you the cure, don't they?
keep on having to you get one pill and you get another pill to solve the side effect of one and the side effect of the other. It's like, well,
Yeah.
why are you taking all these things? Because
Exactly.
making them money.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
in terms of talking to the other side, like I think you in your bio, you said like you passed to the other side when you were 27. Can you talk about that?
Sure. So I injured my back when I was 22, and um, I needed back surgery. And I just knew if I had it, I was going to die. And that's my soul giving me a heads up.
Is it
And I
warning?
put it off as long as I could. For 5 years, I put it off till I had no choice. And I was told I had to have the surgery. And I knew I was going to die. And I told my family I was going to die. Oh, you're just scared. You'll be fine. I'm like, you don't understand. I know it deep in my gut, in my soul. I know it. And sure enough, the night before my surgery, I had an MRI done with a contrast dye. And I let them know I thought I was allergic to it. I'd had it once before. I had a very bad reaction to it. I couldn't get off the table for hours. And of course, it's like, oh, everybody has that reaction. It's normal. And what do I know? I'm 27. I'm not the doctor, right? I don't know. Maybe it is a normal reaction to it. Apparently not. So as soon as they administered the dye again to me, I died. And I never considered it a near death experience because I knew I died. It wasn't close to death. I died. And I was there for quite a while. So I immediately went to heaven. I know everybody's experience that has had a near death experience or anything like that, everything's a little bit different. Some people see tunnels. I just immediately was on the other side. And I could still see everything that was happening below. I could see my body. I could see them, hitting the crash cart and the thing on the wall, the crash cart coming in and the paddles and injecting the line. I saw everything that was happening. But as soon as I got to the other side, I started getting a full life review. And it was like sitting in the front row of an IMAX theater, and everything that was important in my life, the people that had really made a difference in my life, the people that I loved, the times that were really happy, were all like playing out in front of me. And then from behind me, I heard someone say, "It's not really your time. You can stay if you want to, or you could go back. It's your choice." And quite honestly, it was just so amazing on the other side. I used to say the two things you take with you when you go is love and knowledge. But now I know, doing this work, you take all of your emotions, all of your feelings with you. Emotions are an expression of your feeling. You take all of your feelings and all of your knowledge from this lifetime with you when you go to the other side. And for me, it was an overwhelming sense of love. It was like, it's agape is the highest love there is. And it has to be even beyond that. It was just
Hmm.
amazing. And I really was going through my head, gee, I'm not going to go back for my family. Gee, I'm not even going to go back for my husband. And all of a sudden I remembered that I had two very young children here because they were not showing in my life review movie.
Oh wow.
And I knew that they were the reason that I came here to begin with, and that they brought me the most joy in my life. And as soon as I decided I was coming back for them, I was back in my body instantaneously. And when you think of quantum physics and the speed of light, it's, I don't know, 166,000 miles an hour a second for us. But if you put it into a vacuum, it's astronomically much higher than that. And I had to be traveling at least the speed of light when I went into that light to the other side. And so my soul actually came back into my body at that speed as well. So my vibration is really high. I can connect to the other side like instantly. And they allow me to go back to that level that I was at, which was the fifth dimension. That's the lowest level of heaven. And I'm able to go back and forth to that dimension at will.
You're able to talk to departed souls in that way, right?
Well, not really. I can go there and talk to them. But usually if I'm going there, I'm usually going there to talk with guides. Usually when I'm talking to the souls from the other side, I'm talking to them here, to be honest
Mm.
with you. So usually what happens is we're in the 3-dimensional here, they're in the 5th dimension there. Our dream state is that 4-dimensional sandwich in the middle. When you meditate, you raise your vibration and you go up to that fourth dimension, and they lower their vibration. But they can also come down here at will as well. So it's kind of like back and forth between constantly. I see them here all the time, but most of what I'm seeing here, unless I've specifically called on someone for a reading, are the ghosts that are stuck here, because they're just all over the place.
They didn't. They're not
They
all
did
the
not.
way.
No,
They can't pass all the way.
if they haven't gone into the light, they vibrate at the same frequency as a living person.
So they just stick around our plane.
Well, they don't go into the light. There's nowhere else for them to go. They're stuck here. Most people cannot see them. And there's 2 reasons we can't see them. First of all, fear. While you're in this body, you have a brain in your head, right? Other than being a massive computer and helping you process all your information, your brain has a specific job, and that is to protect you. How does it do that? It does it by creating fear. So first of all, from fear, people can't see them. And secondly is the shape of your eyeball. So what we see is how light refracts off of an object and is picked up by our eyeballs. This is why animals can see differently than we can. Color doesn't even exist, quite honestly. We see color because of the way it reflects on the light and back through our eyes. But you have a lot of people that are colorblind and can't see color. A lot of animals are colorblind and can't see colors. So your eyes are picking up a lot of different things. But when you learn how to read energy, you'll feel it, and then you'll start to be able to see it.
Can animals like cats are kind of known? I don't know if it's true, but for being able to connect to spiritual things, is that something that's true?
I believe that because I had a dog who was really amazing. And my last house that I'd owned for many, many years and lived in was very haunted. And the woman that haunted it was a previous owner. Her husband had built it. She was his second wife, and she was very jealous of me. And she literally tried to kill me twice. And I get to the point that I just got so used to the energy in there, I wouldn't recognize that she was coming through the portal, and my dog would spot her first and alert me to it, that she was there.
Wow. Yeah, I do feel like I have a cat. My cat feels. She can see things. I know she's looking at things and feeling things.
Absolutely, yeah.
Giving out warnings sometimes in the middle of the night, like looking into the air. You're not looking into anything, and there's no insect or anything there.
Well, but just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. I mean, like I said, I can see them, and I see them in 3D. So sometimes it's a little challenging for me to know whether or not it's a person or whether or not it's a spirit.
A spirit, yeah.
Yeah, because some of them are very, very strong and can take full body form, and they look just like a human.
So from what age did you realize that you had this ability? When did you first realize that you had this spiritual capability?
So I was born with it. A lot of stuff is inherited as well. My mom was a medium, but I didn't know that until later in life. And my first experience that I remember was about the age of 3. And I got woken up in the morning by somebody calling my name. I got out of bed thinking it was my parents. I went in there and they're fast asleep. I went back into my bed and, wide awake, started looking around and realizing that there were faces all around my room. And it scared the heck out of me. I pulled like the sheet up over my face and I kind of hid, but then the sun was starting to come up and I can remember the shadows of them getting like in my face next to the sheet. And I was scared to death as a kid.
Oh yeah. Like, did you tell your parents when you first
I didn't, because happened? I came from a very dysfunctional family, and you really didn't talk to your parents. I would talk to I had one sister. I'm one of 8 children, and I had one sister that I was kind of close to, and we would talk about it a bit. And she swore she saw aliens in the house, and I'm like, I don't see them. She's like, yeah, they were behind the couch. I woke up, you didn't. I'm like, okay, I didn't see them. But yeah, lots of weird stuff. And then when I got older, I just knew everything that was going to happen before it happened. And when you get to school and start telling your friends the stuff that's going to happen and it happens, you get labeled the freak real quick.
Oh, wow.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I had a
So,
lot of nervous habits as a kid, and I started getting really shy and just tried not to say anything to anybody about what was going to happen.
yeah, because being an outside, well, being a creative, sometimes you get in that same spot. Because if you do something that's different,
Yeah,
like if you, anytime you pull you pull something that's not of what everybody else is into, then people say, well, that person's weird. This person's
right.
strange. They're out. And so, yeah, I've always kind of drawn. I was always kind of drawn to people who were doing different things and kind of that vibe. When you
Right,
get to like the
exactly.
vibe of like, hey, this person's kind of into spiritual stuff, or they're mystic, or they're into like thinking about, hey, maybe that's possible. And so, so when did you feel like you wanted to tell somebody beyond like your sister about what you could do?
So when I was 10, my parents actually split. My dad kidnapped the youngest five of us and took us away. And my job was to do the dishes at night. So every night I do the dishes. There was a woman that would stand there and keep me company in her 40s, and we would talk, and I appreciated it because I didn't know anybody. So one day I asked my brother if he knew who she was. I just assumed that everybody saw her.
Mhm.
Whether he did, maybe he did, I don't know. But he started laughing and he told me that she was the woman that died in the house because her husband threw her down the basement stairs. And that was true.
Wow.
Yeah. So from that point on, I really tried to block my ability. I had a really close connection with my oldest sister at the time, who was 10 years older than me. And we would spend a half hour every night on the phone just trying to call each other, because as soon as I picked up the phone on my end, she'd pick up the phone on her end, and we'd each get busy signals. And this would go on and on and on until we both figured out what's happening. So neither one of us would call. Right.
Yeah.
And then somebody, if at some point finally one of us could get through, and like, I'm trying all night. Yeah, I'm trying you all night. We keep getting busy signals.
Keep on hitting each other
Yeah.
again.
Yeah. But as much as I was blocking it, if someone died, they would still come to me. And I would get up the next morning and tell my family, listen, Joe Schmo died last night, and, oh, no, he didn't. I just talked to him. I'm like, I'm telling you, he's dead. Sure enough, they'd check and he was. It was funny. My mother-in-law died 2 weeks ago on a Sunday night. And Monday I went to the gym and told my girlfriend, I said, my mother-in-law came to me last night. I said, she wanted to apologize. I said, she's like, what, did she die? I'm like, I don't think so, because somebody would have told me, one of my kids would call me. I haven't heard anything. It's Monday. And sure enough, it was a week before they told me that she had died on that Sunday night.
Wow. When did you start to like bring this ability to like a practice where you have these sold out group readings, and when did you
So
figure that you were gonna actually use it instead of like not,
my abilities didn't really fully open up till about 10 years ago. And I was going through a very difficult time in my life. I was getting divorced. My mom was dying. I was working crazy hours, and I went to a Reiki practitioner just to have some relaxation. And she recommended that I meditate. And like everybody says to me, I can't meditate. I have way too much going on.
Yeah, it's too busy in my head.
But I tried. And the first time that I tried to meditate, it was like they kicked the door into the other side. They're like, she's ready. And I could not shut it off. I woke up in the morning with 30 people around my bed. I went to work, and I was a medical esthetician in my business. And every person that came through that door, I knew everything there was to know about them. And it just freaked me out. The first one to come in, I'm like, did your aunt just die? She goes, yeah, she did. How'd you know that? I said, I have no idea how I know that. I'm like, did you clean our house out this weekend? She goes, yeah, we had to, start emptying it out. I'm like, huh. I'm like, did you happen to find one of those sock puppets that looks like a monkey from the 1950s? How random is that, right?
Yeah, that's
She's
very
like, yeah, we found one in the attic. I'm like, oh my
right.
God.
So you're getting all these, you're seeing all these visuals.
All kinds of,
Visuals.
I just, by the third person, she walked through my door with a man behind her in full military uniform. And I'm like, are you a widow? And she's like, yeah, my husband died. I said, was he in the service? Yeah, he was in the service. I said, oh my God. I'm like, if you had any messages for you or any information that would you want to know about it? She's like, absolutely not. I'm like, oh God, now what? Now I'm trying to tell this guy as he's standing next to me for an hour and a half that she doesn't want to hear from him and not know anything. I'm like, I'm sorry. There's nothing I can do. Very
So it's like
awkward.
so it's like a floodgate, but did you have to try is there any way to control the
I
floodgate, or was
didn't
there always
know how. I freaked out. I started picking up like the Awakening
yeah,
magazines and calling every medium in there that I could find. And I'm like, listen, this is what happens. How do I stop it? And they're like, I don't know. I don't have that ability. I've never had that happen. I'm like, are you kidding me? You're telling me you're a medium? How do I shut it off?
wow,
But it's the old adage, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And, we're all guided in this world. We wrote this
so you found
plan,
somebody that was like a
and
sensei or
they
found a
brought,
teacher?
I went to a church, and they had a speaker up there who was a medium. And I looked her up and I called her office, and she was book solid. And I left a message, and she had a cancellation the next day. So I drove an hour up to see her. And, I went in and explained what's happening. And she's like, well, show me what you can do. I'm like, I don't know how to show you. It just happens. She's like, well, bring in some of my, family members that have passed. I'm like, I don't know how to do that. They just show up. I'm like, I
Yeah,
have no idea.
you couldn't
She
do
goes,
it on demand.
she goes, well, just sit down and ask, close your eyes and ask for them and see who shows. And oh my God, I brought in her entire family from both sides, all the way back to the potato famine of Ireland. It was crazy. And then I brought in a witch that was living on her property that she was trying to banish, that was ringing the doorbell the entire time that I was there. And when I left, this woman was in my car. I had no idea, because they hitchhike. And I'm driving on the highway. All of a sudden, I look in my pad. I'm like, "What the heck is that?" And there's a person there. And I screamed, and all the papers that were on the seat went flying in the air. I had to pull off the highway. I was having a panic attack. But she was great. She really taught me how to control it, how to turn it on and off like a light switch, how to protect myself. And then from there, I found another teacher. And then from there, my education really just took over from the other side.
And then when did you decide to actually start using it for like a process, or like making it your life work as a coach, as a
So
paranormal coach?
I trained for probably a year and a half before I even started doing readings. And then one thing led to the next. And I started teaching psychic development and mediumship development first. And I was writing my autobiography. And I just kept hearing, you have to write the book. You have to write the book. And I'm like, what book? I'm writing the book. They're like, oh, no, you have to write another book. I'm like, what? They wanted me to write a handbook, which is my first book, A Night on the Other Side. And it's everything that I taught in psychic development and mediumship for development for people that want to start out and learn themselves.
Hmm.
And, it was great for my students to take. So I'm like, if you guys want me to do that, you're going to have to help me, because I'm writing this book, I'm working, I'm teaching, I'm taking care of my mom who's passing. So yeah, I wrote and published that book in 6 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah.
But that's like when you become a coach. A lot of times, I've talked to a lot of life coaches that it's very important to have like a book to be part of your whole
Well,
practice.
yeah,
Think it
I've
brings
written
in.
4 books at this point. And
Hmm.
I have the Relationship Mastery Program, which is a 7-week online course that the results of that course are just incredible. And it teaches people how to get in touch with their soul, how energy works, and how to reconcile any of their relationships, because everything's a relationship. You're in a relationship with your parents, your friends, your family, even business is a relationship, your customers, your employees. But that program was divinely created. It was done with the angels. And what I realize is, if people don't do the program in order, in a timely manner, their energy doesn't shift, because you have to shift, balance, and reshift in order for the program to really work. And it has to be done exactly in the right order, in a timely manner. If you skip around or anything else, you don't shift. It's incredible. It's absolutely amazing. But the book that I wrote here, All's Fair in Love and Karma, was a result of that program, and realizing that the hundreds of people that went through that program, every one of them was working on any number of the 5 same lessons that we all have to learn for our soul to advance.
And that's how like you can help it. Like you just talked about, like with relationships, like microcosm relationships, like macrocosm. So within your family, within social connections.
Every relationship that's brought into your life is there for a reason, and it's there to teach you something, for you to teach them or to learn something. Because there's 5 lessons we all have to learn. And if you don't want to learn them, the only free will you have here is to delay those lessons. And you can delay them your entire lifetime and have to come back and do them another time so you can learn them.
Mm, wow. So what are those 5 lessons?
So the first one is self-worth. And it's not value, because value is what other people place on you. Self-worth is the understanding that you are so important. You are the only one of you in this entire universe. How special is that you're put here for a purpose? You're really, really special. And it's understanding that it's not narcissistic and it's not selfish to put yourself first. It's where everything else comes from. Society is what tells you that. If you can't take care of yourself first, you're not going to be here to take care of anybody else, are you? Right?
Yeah.
And no one has the power over you to make you anything. I can't make you angry. I can't make you love me. You're responsible for your emotions. That's it. You have that power. No one else has that power over you. The second one is trust and communication. You have to trust, first of all, that there is a higher power. I don't care what you call it. There's only one. And when everybody gets to the other side, they'll figure that out. There is only one. You also have to trust that you made this plan. So if there's something that's happening in your life that you don't like, you really have nobody to blame for it but yourself. You wrote it into your life plan for a reason. And, if we're stubborn and we're not on our path, then the universe will step in to put you back on the path you're supposed to be on. If you're supposed to be moving out to California because that's where your job is, and you're going to meet the love of your life and have 6 kids or rescue a guy who's jumping off a building, who knows? And you're not going, they're going to make sure you go. Maybe they'll make you lose your job here or burn your house down or put you on something. They'll get you where you're supposed to be. That's the reality. And nothing is ever happening to you. It's all happening for you, for your highest and best. And it's hard in the moment when you're going through a difficult situation to understand that it's happening to teach you something. But hindsight's 2020, and we can all look back at some of the most difficult times in our life and see how that led to something else, and it led to something else and brought you to right where you are right now. Something good comes out of everything, I promise. And you have to be able to communicate to the people around you your wants and your needs. We don't know by osmosis. You have to be able to communicate it somehow. And sex is just another form of communication. If you can't communicate and trust outside the bedroom, you're not going to be able to communicate and trust inside the bedroom. Then you have unconditional love. Unconditional love is extremely difficult for people. They want to hate, they want to live in the drama, they want to drag everybody down, they want to look for reasons for things. Sometimes you're not going to know the reason because you're not supposed to. It's not about you. It's not always about you. Sometimes it's about the other person. And, unconditional love is not staying in the bad relationship because, he only beats me on a Sunday. No, I'm supposed to be practicing unconditional love. That's not what it is. It's saying, listen, self-worth kicks back in because each lesson reinforces the other lessons. I love you. I care about you. We had a good run, but it's not working. And I want the best for you and I want the best for me, and go your separate ways. And it's meaning it. It's not bad mouthing them on the weekend with your mutual friends because you can. It's not unconditional love. Suppose you have a child that you love unconditionally and they do something horrific, like they murder a neighbor in a fit of rage and they go to prison for the rest of their life. You don't like what your child did, but hopefully you still unconditionally love your child. Mm-hmm. And if you still can't learn it, then the universe just keeps making it tougher and tougher for you. Maybe it'll be a drunk driver that takes your child. There's a lesson there for everybody. Are you going to hate the driver for the rest of your life because he took your child? Clearly your child wrote that into his life, his life plan, that he wasn't going to stay here that long. And it's a lesson for you, maybe in grieving and understanding that they're still around you. They haven't gone that far, I promise. As soon as you say their name, they're there in an instant. Maybe it's a lesson for the person driving. Maybe it's the lesson for the police officer, the paramedic. You don't know. There's lessons everywhere. And as much as it sucks to say everything's a lesson, it's true. It's why we're here. Then you have money and balance. And money is energy. That's why it's called currency. And it's what we use in this 3D world to show whether or not your life is in balance. Everything in the universe has to stay in balance. This is why you have sun up, sun down, you have daylight, nighttime, you have the North Pole, the South Pole, you have the yin and the yang. Everything has to stay in balance. And when it's out of balance, that's when problems start. So if you're working way too many hours, you're out of balance. You have no time for your family, your friends, yourself. If you're just hoarding your money, you're not spending it. You don't have enough self-worth again to spend the fruits of your labor on yourself. Again, it's all about being out of balance. And when you understand that money is energy, it has to flow, just like the current in an electrical wire or a river. The more you put out, the more will come back to you. We are never meant to live a life of lack. We come here to live a life of abundance, but it's all in your mindset. The universe doesn't hear negativity. If you keep wanting to cross the street and you say, I don't want to get hit by a car, I don't want to get hit by a car, the universe doesn't hear the I don't. It hears hit by a car. And I guarantee you'll get hit by a car. You have to be very careful with how you put things out to the universe. You put out what you want, not what you don't want. Okay? And the last thing that we have to learn is patience. And again, it's very difficult. We live in a world right now of instant gratification. Everybody wants everything right now. They don't want to wait for anything. They even want to have Uber and the DoorDash deliver everything for them. And it doesn't work that way. The things come to you in the time that it's supposed to come to you. Suppose, every little girl that wanted to get married and had kids started that at 5 years old. That'd be a little ridiculous, right? And at 35, if you're still wanting to get married and have kids, and the clock is ticking and it hasn't happened, it's because you wrote it into your plan that way. And it doesn't mean it's never going to happen. Maybe maybe when you're 40, you're going to marry a widower and raise his children. You don't know, but you wrote it into your plan for a reason. And you have to understand that and trust that and look at the experiences that you're having for whatever reason in your life and appreciate that. And then you'll see how much different your life will be.
Yeah, there's a lot of things you talked about. I'm as a Buddhist, like I believe in a lot of karmic and past lives, future lives. And a lot of times, like if you don't learn your lesson, you do learn it in the next life, because you're just on this reel if you don't advance, right?
Your soul can't advance unless you learn the lessons. Exactly.
So that's the thing is, like as an artist, a lot of times it's the hard things. It's the painful things that create the most impactful art, right? There are a lot of us artists, we channel those things and we kind of look at life as our asset.
Yeah, it's an expression. It's an expression. Everybody expresses their emotions a little bit differently, right?
Yeah, and that's your unique self. Is like your self is your secret sauce. Like you don't have to be that other person. You can take your own individual, unique self. That's not.
Well, like you are else. You aren't like anybody else. Even if you're a twin, okay, you have different likes, different dislikes, and even different fingerprints. There is no one else like you on the face of this earth. You are unique. You are special. And how you project that and how you put that out and what you do with it is going to be unique and special as well.
So learning how to kind of shift your energy, like to be able to put yourself, like a lot of times, like in frequency, like I talk about frequency in a lot of work I do. It's like you can be discordant, you can have harmony, you can have noise, and you can be in tune, right? So like when you're in tune, it's like you're in balance, right? But then you could raise your frequency so you're at these higher levels. So like
even when you raise your frequency, you have to balance it. So what I teach people is to first how to raise their frequency. Once you've raised your frequency, your energy shifts. It's a complete shift of your soul. And it's literally peeling somebody back off the ceiling after, okay? Because that's not balanced. That's the first shift. But you feel the difference in the energy between where you want to be and where you actually are. And then you learn how to raise it up and balance it so it stays that way. And your energy's balanced when things don't bother you, when drama doesn't bother you, what
You're
other
not
people
triggered.
say,
You're
because
not
what other
triggered.
people say about you is none of your business, right? When the full moons don't bother you, none of this stuff should really, it should roll off your back like a duck in water, because it has no meaning. It has no value. Okay. The highest vibration there is love. That's the highest vibration. So if you want to raise your vibration, fall in love with somebody, right?
Yeah.
Laugh. Laughter raises your vibration. But meditation, getting in touch with your soul, will raise your vibration to the highest level. And the reason for that is that the majority of your soul is not in your body. Your soul is way too big for this body. Some of your soul is in your body. Some of it is over your body that people can see, and they call it an aura. And the majority of your body, of your soul, is in the lowest level of heaven, that fifth dimension. And it orchestrates the timing of all the events in your life here. And it also holds the knowledge of all your past lives. So once you start getting in touch with your soul, you'll start knowing things that you have no idea where it came from. You
Or like
start
deja vu. Like
people that
deja
start
vu.
meditating and getting in touch with their soul, they'll notice that their ears start to ring, things like that. That's literally a download of information into your brain, which is a computer. And this is where you suddenly know things that you didn't know, because you're getting information from your soul on the other side that has all this knowledge.
Also, kind of like the idea of deja vu when you pick things up and it's like, hey, where'd that come from? It's like this thing happened, and
It may have
you're
happened, or you may have been, you may be
projecting.
remembering some of the plan, or if you've
Mhm.
tapped into your soul, you may have been, remembering that this is part of the plan that you wrote, and that's why it's happening. Could be many things. Could have been there before. Deja vu can happen from different reasonings, but by raising your vibration and getting in touch with your soul and balancing it, you can keep your vibration very high. And this is where the law of attraction kicks in. The stories that I could tell you about the law of attraction are absolutely insane. But once you understand how the energy works and you put it out to the universe that there's something that you want, and you're asking your angels and asking your guides, it's amazing how things start to flow to you. It's absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I believe in that. There's a lot of stuff. Like if you put that positive mindset, if you kind of reframe from the negative, and you put your goals in front of you, and they're not about like I can't do this, I can never do that.
Well, it's
All
all
the
about
like,
being grateful. Think about just where you work, okay? And your boss comes over and he has extra projects to give people because there's extra work that has to get done. And every time he gives it to this one guy, all he does is piss, moan, and complain, right? He doesn't want it. So, and the other guy that he gives it to is so grateful. It's like, oh, I love keeping busy. I love the extra money, blah, blah. Who's he going to give the work to, right? He's going to give it to the guy that wants it,
yeah,
that's
the
grateful
person
for it.
in tune.
Okay. And the
Yeah,
angels are the same way on the other side. So angels are not they were never human. Okay. They are a completely separate race. And their entire existence is to help us and bring us things. And the more grateful you are, the more they'll give you. But there is one rule with the angels: if you don't ask, they can't help. That is their rule. So if there's something that you need help with, ask, and they will come through with it. Every time my faith is faltering, St. Anthony plays little tricks on me, and it's always with my diamond earrings, every single solitary time. I have lost those earrings, I believe, 4 times. I'll lose one earring, it will fall out. And I've had screwbacks put on them twice, brand new ones, and I check them every day to make sure they're tight. Yet 4 times, one of those earrings has fallen out. And by the time I notice it's out, I've already gone to the gym, gone to the beach, gone shopping. And here we are, 4 hours,
right.
3 or 4 hours later. I'm like, oh my God, it could be anywhere. Scour the house on my hands and knees. Sit down and ask St. Anthony. Sit down, pray to St. Anthony. Within 30 minutes, I found it. All of a sudden, it'll just come to my head where it is. Boom, there it is. And it happens every single solitary time. So now I thought I beat him. I got little rubber backs to go on top of the screw backs. So the rubber would have to come off before the other screw back, right? So
It's
now
so
I
cool.
had to take them out the other day, okay, for a procedure I was having done, and I put them on my bureau, top of my bureau, and I made sure they were all together. And I took the first one out, and when I went to take the second one out, I'm like, where'd the first rubber screw back go? I don't see it, right? I can't see it. I'm like, I'm looking, I'm feeling around. It's not there. I'm checking on the rug. I'm like, I know you're messing with me, Anthony, and it better be there by the time I need it. So I take the other one, I leave everything there. Now, mind you, the one rubber back is missing, right? Sure enough, the next morning I get up, I go over there to put them on. It's back. Both of them were there.
You just got to ask. A lot of times, like, people are scared to ask for that help from the other side, or even in
Sometimes it's hard to ask anybody for help, but we're here to help each other. I was one of those people. Well, you know what? I grew up in a very dysfunctional family, and I was afraid to ask anybody for anything. And when anybody did anything nice to me, I was shell shocked. I didn't know what to say, and I didn't know socially what to even do. And I get yelled at a couple of times because it was like, I'm thinking in my head, how can I repay this person? And the thank you didn't even come out because I was just so lost and confused with someone helping me. So it took a very, very long time for me to be comfortable with that and being able to ask people for help.
It's the vulnerability. Yeah, I think it's the vulnerability of it because, I mean, I'm in business. I'm in IT system design. And sometimes people are scared to show what they don't know because we're supposed to, like, we're techie people. We're supposed to be up on everything, right? With tech. And so if somebody doesn't know something, then they feel like
that would be fear again. Yeah, that would be back to the fear.
Vulnerable. Yeah. So they don't want to speak up about what they don't know, except in a group of people, they're sure they're not going to get in trouble. But to me, it's like if you don't know something, you need to kind of speak up because people might just assume that you do know.
Right. Well, the thing for me was I always felt that if I asked for something, I would have had to give something back. And this is where I didn't know how. But, the reality of it is ask someone for something or help someone that you don't expect to ever get anything back from. That's the key.
Yeah, that's not one son back. I think that's the thing is people are scared of the vulnerability of being tagged, but they're also scared of owing somebody.
Right. And the reality of it is we are all here to help each other. It's one of the reasons that we're here. And this is why the whole grand plan is to divide and conquer. Because when you're not together and you're not helping each other, it's easily to pick you off one by one, isn't it?
Yeah, well, then you get the leaders who can manipulate because if they can separate, it's like the old, general kind of concept.
Exactly.
If you're a general, if you're a military leader, you have to divide and conquer. If you can create civil disorder, then it's easier to get in control because
it's people easy to do now too.
After you, because if everybody's going against themselves, then
they won't
see that you're the guy running things, right?
All the infighting, exactly.
Cause all the infighting, so you don't recognize who's actually against your interests. Yeah. You think each other's against your interests.
So I lived through the blizzard of 1978, back up in Massachusetts and New England. It was New England. It was Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Connecticut for anybody that's that old. Yeah, and I have to tell you, it was a very special time because you had no electricity, you had no heat. Your cars were literally under so much snow you didn't know there was a car there. And people came off the highways. We were right near the highway in groves. You had 20 people in your house that you didn't even know that you're trying to feed and give blankets and, keep busy and play games and keep everybody from being afraid. And it was a wonderful time. Everybody came together during that time. It was an amazing time. And how I wish that we could get society back to that. We were all helping each other and being there for one another again, because that's the way it's supposed to be.
I think it's a lot of times it's are all these tools, because I'm in IT, but like all these
electronic gadgets,
all these gadgets that keep us so connected.
Well, I think they also pollute the energy.
But they pollute your mind because the problem is like if you're with that cell phone, that smartphone, you don't even talk to the people around you. You're staring at the phone.
Exactly.
To see if you miss something, right?
Yeah.
And so what you're missing is the life around you. But you're looking at this object thinking that you don't want to miss that next little ping that the thing's going to give you this information, but you're actually missing out on the primary thing you should be involved in, which is life.
Exactly. Yeah. I refuse to even turn a television on in my house until like 7:00 at night. It's music. I listen to music. I read a book. I'll listen to an audio book.
Yeah, music is
Yeah,
my thing. Yeah, well, I'm a child of the '70s, so I love vinyl, so I can sit there and get drawn into the whole thing.
right.
I'm kind of against the playlist because people just pick and choose, and they don't get brought into the story. Because I'm
Right.
kind of a person's like, well, that artist was trying to tell a story, and you're only hearing one piece of it. It's like the cliff note. You're not diving deeper, so you're not picking up.
Yeah,
You know,
and
like,
it's interesting. A lot of audiophiles, when you get into that vinyl and you pick up an album like that, from the beginning of the album to the end of the album, every song led into something different. And it was amazing. And
yeah,
now the way things are, it's just you'll get one song on the radio, and it's like that's it.
it's
It's
like,
that this
well,
is it.
sometimes it's all
It's
disconnected, and they're not like,
yeah,
like listening to the Sergeant Peppers or listening to the Stevie Wonder's songs in the key of life. It's like, or Pink Floyd, whatever you listen to, but you would get drawn into that soundscape. It was
I
like a
agree.
sound painting.
Stairway
And
to Heaven, wasn't that the longest
yeah,
beginning of
yeah,
any
the way we
song? It
Led
was
Zeppelin.
11 minutes, I think, right? The beginning of that. Who people don't know that anymore.
Yeah,
But it's
people don't
in
get drawn into that.
so what people don't understand how important music is. The first angel that I ever channeled on this side, I was doing Reiki on a woman, and suddenly the entire room filled from ceiling to floor with light. And I was so overwhelmed with the energy that came in. Literally, I was on my hands and knees in tears. Thank God this woman had her eyes closed. But she was a choir angel. The choir angels sit to the right hand of God. And this just music all the time, all
Music is very
beautiful.
healing. There's a lot of power in music, and people who pick up on it, it has a lot of, well, it's vibrational. It's
Yeah.
the same. It's like it's stuff you can't see, but you feel it, right?
It's
It's
funny. When I was a kid, I used to get music through the cavities in my teeth. I swear to God.
you actually can do that.
I did. I would get music through the cavities, and it was funny. It was like I thought it was great. I was listening to radio stations, literally
Well, there's
hearing it.
some devices now that can transfer musical frequency through like bone instead of your ears.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah. For
there's
people that
stuff.
are deaf, exactly. Yeah,
So there's already, but the whole idea, like vibrations and frequencies, like if you look at sound waves, and as being a musician, like I actually spent a lot of time with oscillators looking at, sine waves,
it's
triangle
energy.
waves,
All the
square
energy.
waves, and I get to
Yeah.
see what they do to the audience,
Hmm.
right? So if I build like a tone that's made up of these waveforms, certain waveforms, I put them into at certain levels, certain frequencies, I can actually create harmonies or dissonance or something
So
that actually can
what's
drive.
interesting is even if someone can't hear that, okay, it's energy. They're still feeling. They can still feel that vibration. Okay.
Yeah.
It's like the old adage, if a tree fell in the woods, does it make a sound? It does
Yeah.
not. It makes a vibration. It's only a sound if there's something there to pick it up, an ear, a recording device. And it's the same thing with all the music. Even if people were deaf, they would be able to feel the energy because it's
Energy.
the
It was
vibration.
energy. But there's a lot
Exactly.
of energy in sound. I mean, you can break glass with sound. You can break
Absolutely.
enough sound
It's all
has a
energy,
lot of power.
vibration, frequency. It's all the same, different terms for the same thing. And this is what everything in the universe is made of, is that energy.
So
And this
you have
is
this ability to like be able to
I
feel
can
and read
yes,
that energy.
I can feel it and pick up on it. And this is why, and most, everybody can if you sensitize yourself to it. Okay. It's like I
Mhm,
said, everybody's walked into a funeral and felt that low energy where everybody's depressed and
mhm.
crying. You feel that. And then walk into a birthday party where everybody's on that high. You
Yeah.
feel the difference in that energy. So the more you pay attention to it and sensitize yourself to it, the more energy you'll be able to pick up on. So yeah, I can pick up on energy immediately. I know if a ghost has walked in the room behind me, okay, I feel it. I'll turn around and see it. When I'm talking to someone, a spirit that's come through, I know immediately. When I was working on missing person cases, it was tricky because if someone passed away and they had not gone into the light, I'm picking up on their energy the same as the person that's still alive. And if
Hmm.
they don't want me to know that they've passed, I won't know.
Hmm.
But if they've gone into the light, I immediately pick up on that high energy vibration, and I know they've passed to the other side. The same, I've chased a demon around a 3 family in Connecticut once, and it's the same thing. The vibration of evil is literally like a pit in your stomach. It's such a low vibration, it makes you almost sick.
Yeah, I
Okay.
would think that that would
It's
make sense. That
yeah,
it would bring, because it's like it's coming from such a dark place.
yeah,
It's coming from such a bad intention that if you're sensitive to it, you would feel that intention.
yeah. Yes, but
If you
anybody can sensitize themselves to it if they pay attention. It's like anything in life. If they pay attention to it and they can develop it. Yeah.
so again, like we're getting near the end of the show, but I want to ask this question I would thought was really interesting. Is like, what are the most interesting things you've ever had from a reading? Like the most interesting thing, or a couple of things that in a reading that happened that the audience would really maybe be surprised about.
So the first reading that I did that made me know I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, no matter what anybody says, I was at a New Year's Eve event and doing readings. And it was my second year there. And I was all done. I have been reading all day. I was exhausted, packing up. And there was an older woman in her 80s with her daughter. And the daughter's like, "Oh, you done for the night?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm ready to go home." She goes, "Could you do one more? My mom's been waiting for like an hour and a half." I'm like, "Yeah, sure. Come on over." So she sits down and I ask, do you want a reading or did you want to talk to somebody from the other side? She's like, "I want to talk to my son." I'm like, "Okay. Would you like to talk to your dad first? Because I'm pretty sure that's who's been standing next to you for the last hour and a half." She goes, "Okay." So, I mean, I can only give what I get. And this is a mistake that a lot of mediums make. They don't. So I'm like, well, I said, did he have some occasion to be wearing a tuxedo with a top hat and have one of these little prop canes? She goes, "Oh, yeah, that's my dad." I'm like, "Okay." And this has got to be your mom. I said, they must have been in love and together prior to passing, because this woman just came over and they put their arms around each other, but she's wearing this ball gown and she has a crown on her head. She goes, "Oh yeah, that's my mom. I have that picture over my fireplace." I'm like, "Okay." And then, I'm like, "Okay." He's talking about how disappointed he is because there's no one to carry on the bloodline. Your son passed away without having any children, and you had a brother apparently that didn't have any children. She's like, "Oh, well, okay." She's like, "I still want to talk to my son." Okay. Now I describe the next person. "Oh, no, that's my brother." I'm like, "Okay. Do you want to know who killed him?" She goes, "No, we think we got him. The guy went to prison." I'm like, "Okay. Your brother wants you to know that the bloodline got carried on because he had 2 children." She's like, "He did?" He goes, "Yep." A boy and a girl. And she's like, "Oh, I thought that girl was his." She goes, "Who's the other one with?" And he says, "I'm not going to say because he doesn't want to cause him trouble." Okay. "But he wants to thank you for raising him. He said that you raised him, his parents didn't." She goes, "That's true. My parents were socialites." And she told me that her name after, I don't remember what it was at the moment, but I recognized it as a very prominent name from where I came from. Um, and she's, "Yeah, I raised him. The parents didn't." She goes, "But I still want to talk to my son." Okay. So call him again. Nobody's coming up. So I asked the brother, I said, "Can you get her son, please?" And when I'm doing a reading for someone, there's 1,000 people that crowd around because everybody wants to come through. They want to talk to you so bad from the other side, but it's not even people that you know. It's people that maybe your next door neighbor's mother that knows you can get a message. They're there too. Everybody's there hoping
Trying
I'm
to
going to
come through.
mess up and let them through. So I see him go into the crowd and grab somebody by his arm and bring him up. He's standing in front of me and he's looking down, and I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I have a whole bunch of symbols because they move so fast. A lot of them have not learned how to slow their energy down enough to even talk to me. So a lot of it's symbolism. So when they have their head down like that, that's an indication to me that either he felt that he really let her down or he committed suicide. So I'm like, do you think he committed suicide? And she's like, yeah, I caused him to take his life. And his head popped up and he said, no, I didn't. It was an accident.
Oh,
So
wow.
the sister hears this and comes running over because she was trying to give her mom some privacy. And she goes, I knew it. She goes, he was doing really good. He had the TV on. He was cooking dinner. He had a girlfriend. Okay. I said, so what happened? He said, well, first of all, they changed my medication. And I was a little confused from that. I said, and his mom's like, yeah, they did. He had some issues and they changed his medication. I said, okay. I said he was watching TV. And I'm like, wait a minute. I said, something happened to his head. I said, he wasn't hung. I said, but there's something with his head. She goes, yeah, he beheaded himself. I'm like, what? So now I'm asking him what happened. And he's showing me that he was watching a television show where they were juggling chainsaws. And he went down into the barn with a chainsaw and thought he could juggle it, and it went up, came down, and beheaded him. And she's like, yep, that's exactly what happened. I'm like, oh my God. So now, because I'm able to be in the middle, the medium, and let them talk, you know, she spent her whole life thinking she caused him to kill himself because she was tough on him.
And that was just an accident. Wow.
And it was an accident. And he didn't know how. He felt so guilty and so bad that her life was so ruined. She was so depressed because she thought she caused him to kill himself. So just being able to help the two of them, you know, it helped heal his soul on that side. It helped heal her soul on this side. And I asked her after, I said, this was 35 years ago. I said, why didn't you come to see somebody like me before? She goes, I've gone to see every medium I could find for the last 35 years. She goes, you're the first one to ever bring him through.
Find it. Wow.
I'm the first one to bring him through. I'm like, you know what? I don't care what anybody says. I wish I could have helped her 35 years ago. Her life would have been much different.
Well, that's very impressive. But that, like, sometimes you, like you said, you're on a path and you don't get there until it's the time you.
Exactly. I wasn't ready. I had to go through a lot more things so that I can help the people that I help. Because realistically, you know, I have people that come to me with all kinds of stuff and they're like, oh, you don't understand. You've never been through what I've been through. Yeah. Want to bet? There's not much I haven't been through. And that was the only reason that I wrote my autobiography, because I had a very, very difficult life. And I've seen it. I've been through pretty much everything. So yeah, I can relate to what people are feeling and how to help.
I want to thank you for being a guest on the Family Like the Ghost podcast. It's been really
oh, it's my pleasure.
illuminating. Thank you. But I want to let, if people click on juneedward.com, what do they find there? Is that a way to connect with you?
Sure. So they can schedule appointments with me on there. I do astrology, numerology, Akashic records, regular readings, mediumship. All of my books are there. There's links to all of my books, the Cards of the Magi journal as well. There are lots of video testimony from my students and links to all my social media and podcasts and reviews. And there's also a free webinar that you can sign up for and learn a little bit more about how energy works and a little bit more about the Relationship Mastery Program. And if you're interested in that, you can schedule a call with me and we can see if you're a good fit for the program. I also have a retreat going out the first week of March of 2025. It's a 7-night cruise. It's going to be Western Caribbean, Virgin Islands, Dominican Republic, and I'll be doing 4 workshops on that ship as well. So there's still a few rooms left. If you're interested, I'd love to have some more people on board.
Thank you very much. I want to let the audience know that that hyperlink is clickable in the description of the podcast. We were just on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, and we will be on all the major podcast platforms by tomorrow, where you'll be able to click through on that easily on the description of the podcast. And again, I want to thank you for being a guest on the
Family. My pleasure. Anytime. Thank you.
Have a good night.